The Valdrek warship materialized above the trading station like a steel predator, its weapons arrays glowing with menacing energy. Inside the station's cramped command center, Kiza watched the holographic display with calculated calm, her dark eyes tracking the vessel's every movement. She'd been a mediator for the Galactic Council for 7 years, and she'd seen hostage situations before, but never one involving humans. "They're hailing us," announced Strix, the station's Quelian administrator, his forearms trembling visibly. "The Valdrek are demanding we surrender all human personnel aboard the station, or they'll destroy us." Kiza's jaw tightened. 47 humans were currently on the station, including civilian traders, engineers, and one particularly stubborn security consultant named Nick Jang. She'd worked with Nick before. The man was infuriatingly reckless, perpetually sarcastic, and somehow always right when it mattered most. "Open the channel," Kiza ordered. "Let me talk to them." The view screen flickered to life, revealing Commander Vothak of the Valdrek Supremacy, his reptilian features twisted into what his species considered a diplomatic smile. Behind him, Kiza could see rows of armed soldiers. "Mediator Kiza," Vothak hissed. "How fortunate that the Council sent their finest negotiator. This makes things simpler. You have 1 standard hour to deliver the humans to us. They will stand trial for crimes against the Valdrek Supremacy." "What crimes?" Kiza kept her voice level, professional. "These are civilian contractors and traders. They've committed no—" "They exist," Vothak interrupted. "That is crime enough. 1 hour, mediator, or everyone on this station dies with them." The transmission cut off. Strix immediately began hyperventilating, all 4 of his hands fluttering in panic. "We have to comply. The Valdrek don't make empty threats. We have to do nothing," came a calm voice from the doorway. Kiza turned to see Nick leaning against the frame, arms crossed, wearing his usual expression of dangerous amusement. His short black hair was slightly disheveled, and there was a coffee stain on his jacket that suggested he'd been woken from one of his infamous naps. "Nick," Kiza said carefully, "this isn't the time for your usual bravado. The Valdrek have a warship. We have a civilian trading station with minimal defenses." "Right," Nick said, walking into the room. "So we can't fight them directly. Good thing humans specialize in asymmetric warfare." He glanced at the display. "That's a Valdrek Talon-class cruiser. Impressive shields, devastating weapons, crew of about 200. He smiled. "And a catastrophic design flaw." Kiza felt a familiar mixture of hope and dread. "What flaw?" "Their reactor cooling system draws from external radiators on the dorsal hull. Very efficient, very powerful." Nick's smile widened. "Very exposed. Cut those radiators and the reactor goes into emergency shutdown within 90 seconds. The ship becomes a very expensive floating brick." "You can't possibly reach those radiators," Strix stammered. "They're monitoring every shuttle, every escape pod." "Who said anything about a shuttle?" Nick was already moving toward the equipment lockers. "Kiza, I need you to buy me 20 minutes. Keep them talking. Make them think you're considering their demands." "Nick, what are you planning?" He paused, looking back at her with unusual seriousness. "Something very human. Something these terrorists won't see coming." 15 minutes later, Kiza was back on the view screen with Commander Vothak, delicately weaving a web of diplomatic language while her heart hammered in her chest. She spoke of protocols, of council procedures, of the complexities of jurisdictional transfer, anything to buy time. Outside the station, invisible against the black of space, Nick drifted toward the Valdrek warship in nothing but a modified EVA suit. The other 46 humans had volunteered immediately when they heard his plan. They'd scattered across the station's exterior in similar suits, each carrying improvised cutting torches cobbled together from mining equipment. The Valdrek were watching for ships, for missiles, for conventional threats. They weren't watching for 47 humans in the dark, moving with the practiced silence of a species that had been apex predators long before they reached the stars. Nick reached the first radiator panel and ignited his torch. The metal began to glow. Around the ship, at precisely coordinated points, 46 other torches blazed to life. On the view screen, Vothak was growing impatient. "Your time is nearly expired, mediator. I want your answer now." Every light on the Valdrek warship suddenly went dark. "What?" Vothak spun around as alarms began shrieking throughout his bridge. "Emergency power!" "What's happening?" Kiza allowed herself a small smile. I believe, Commander, that you've just learned an important lesson about humanity. We have a saying, we don't negotiate with terrorists. This is impossible. Our sensors showed nothing. That's because you were looking for weapons, Kiza said calmly. Humans don't always use weapons, Commander. Sometimes we use tools. Sometimes we use patience. Sometimes we simply use the fact that we're terrifying when we need to be. The view screen split to show another feed. Nick's face appeared, helmet off, grinning from inside what appeared to be the Valdric ship's own airlock. Surprise, Nick said. While you were threatening unarmed civilians, 47 of those civilians just disabled your entire ship and are now in control of your oxygen recyclers, your communications array, and your life support systems. His grin faded into something colder. Here's our counteroffer. You power down weapons, you retreat beyond the system's boundary, and you send a message to every Valdric commander explaining exactly what happens when you threaten humans. You wouldn't dare, Vothak began. Wouldn't we? Nick's voice was ice. Commander, my species spent thousands of years developing creative ways to kill each other. We've fought wars in deserts, jungles, mountains, and vacuum. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. He leaned closer to the camera. What we don't do is let terrorists win. Ever. Vothak's reptilian features had gone pale. Around him, his crew was clearly panicking as their ship continued to die around them. You have 5 minutes to decide, Nick continued. Withdraw, or we'll show you what human creativity really looks like when you threaten our friends. 3 minutes later, the Valdric warship's engines fired weakly, limping away from the station on emergency power. Within an hour, it had jumped out of the system entirely. Back in the command center, Kiza watched the warship vanish from sensors and then turned to Nick, who'd just returned through the airlock, still wearing his EVA suit. That was insane, she said. Reckless, dangerous, and completely outside every protocol in the Council handbook. I know, Nick said, unzipping his suit. But did it work? Kiza felt a smile tugging at her lips despite herself. It worked. Good, Nick stretched, wincing. Because I'm way too old for spacewalks and every muscle in my body is screaming right now. He paused, his expression turning serious. Kiza, I need you to understand something. That message I gave Vothak, it wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Humans have a saying, peace through superior firepower. But the real version is, peace through the absolute certainty that we'll do whatever it takes to protect innocent people. Is that why the Galactic Council is so nervous about your species? Kiza asked quietly. Because you're unpredictable? No, Nick said. They're nervous because we're predictable. Threaten us and we'll fight. Threaten our friends and we'll fight harder. Try to use fear as a weapon against humanity? He smiled grimly. Well, you just saw how that works out. Across the station, the human personnel were already returning to their normal duties, as if disabling a warship with nothing but cutting torches and determination was just another day's work. Watching them, Kiza finally understood what made humanity so unsettling to the rest of the galaxy. They weren't the strongest species or the fastest or the most technologically advanced, but they were the only species that treated impossible as a suggestion rather than a limitation. And they never ever negotiated with terrorists. The end